Let's go back to the rules here quickly so that we can be sure we know. Please switch off your video and mute your microphone. Write your student number in the chat. Send queries to ctntat@unisa.ac.za. And please complete the feedback form either during or after the class. And please remember that the session will be recorded. If you click on this one, you will be able to take part in the conversation. So please write your, in the meeting chat, please write your, any information, your student number must be written here, Naomi, and any questions that you have must also be written here. Let's start with the workshop. We are going to speak about essays and pay attention to the introduction, the paragraphs and the conclusion, and then part of it will then also be on how to structure an argument. So first of all, we have to say, what is an essay? The primary aim of an essay is to show that you understand an issue and that you can explain what you understand. So when we say an essay is a way of understanding an issue, means that I think before I write, and then while I am writing, I organize ideas and I come to a new insight. And that means that you interpret the ideas and the facts that you collect, and you present it in a coherent manner. I don't know whether you have noticed, but sometimes when people tell you a story, they are reminded of something else and they start speaking about that. And at the end, you don't understand what they wanted to tell you because it looks a bit like an old-fashioned cook sister. They have added all kinds of ideas to the main idea, and you don't know what they wanted to tell you. And that would then be incoherent. Logically coherent means that I start my argument at A, and there's a logical transition. Even if I go to C instead of B, it is a clear transition to the next part of the argument. And then the difference between the essays that you are going to write and the assignments that you are doing is that it's firmly rooted in the available evidence, which means that you are looking for facts and information. Of course, there's a difference between facts and information because you may need a theory to explain why you are interpreting the facts. I'm going to take the example of an abused child. The fact is the age of the child, how much he weighs, whether he goes to school or not. Those are facts. But there are theories. Say, for instance, the child haven't received proper nutrition. Then you go to developmental psychology, which says the average child weighs at the age of 6 between this and that. And that child is so far below that. And if you look at him, if you take x-rays, you can see those are, you can interpret the facts, how much he weighs, to say that this child is not being properly fed at home. So do you understand that we take evidence and we put our idea together logically because we can interpret the facts according to the theories which we understand. Before we go to the different kinds of essays, I want to go back to the chat. Naomi, can you hear me properly? Just give me an indication that you can hear me. And put in your student number, please, in this chat that we can see on the screen now. Natasha, I see you've joined us. Will you please put your number in the meeting chat that's on the screen now? Because I'm not sure whether you guys can hear me.
Good morning, Mimi. I can hear you. I posted my student number as well.
Natasha, I see your hand is up as if you want to say something. You want to draw my attention. Is there a problem with the chat? Apparently, please indicate that you can hear me by writing in the chat, because I can't see that you've written your names or that you have. Maybe if I go to that one. No. I'm just contacting Unisa. I'm going to make a phone call to the office just to find out what's going on here. Hi, Bronwyn. I don't know what's going on with my class. I don't know whether the students can hear me, and I can't see any chats coming up.
We can see everything.
Okay, but then there's something else wrong because I've asked them several times just to put their numbers in the chat, and there's no response. So I can't interpret the fact that there's no response. Okay. 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 Thank you. Yeah, okay. 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 I'll do that. Okay. Bye. Okay. We have different kinds of essays, and the problem with calling it an essay is that at school you often had to write a story for an essay, but that's not what we do in academic writing. An essay is an argument, and you get two kinds. In the one that we call an expository essay, we discuss an issue, which means that we look at an issue from more than one point of view. For instance, say, I think in your work as social work, you often have to look at the psychology and the psychological implication of the event or the problem that you see, and then you have to look at the legal implications as well. Say, for instance, that you have to report on children involved in a divorce matter, then you have to look at the psychological implication of the divorce, and you have to look at the legal matter. But that's not all. You will also have to look at the money involved. So in that case, we explore an issue. When we discuss an issue, we have opposing views. When I was a young girl and unmarried women became pregnant, there was often quite a pressure put upon them to have the child adopted. Well, if I look at my daughter's friends, if they get pregnant without being married, it's a case of how am I going to convince the father to pay for the child? And they often live with the father for a few more years before they either break up or decide to get married. So that's an example of you will have to look at what is the case for adoption versus what is the case against adoption, and that then would be discussed. We can take the same and compare. So you will have a study looking at adopted children and compare them to children who grew up with a single mother, and try and come from your to a conclusion from your studies whether you are going to give uh, these children what would have been the best advice. Should I have should I advise people to have children adopted, or is it better to keep the child and look after the child yourself? I want to have a look at, Richard said I must go out and come in again if my chats do not update, because apparently you did write the chats in. Okay, there you are. We can hear you and see the chats. I'm glad. Welcome, people. And I'm sorry that there was this technical delay at the beginning. So, are there any questions at this stage about the kind of essay that you have to write? Especially some of you said that you are worried about the essays for psychology and sociology. So the expository essay would be where we discuss points in favor or against. We can also explore an issue, or we can compare. And in your case, you often have to compare and then synthesize two or more theories. And we are going to speak about that as well. Then the difference between the expository and the argumentative comes in the conclusion, because in the expository you come to a conclusion, but your conclusion is more or less a synthesis or a summary of that which you have discussed or explored or compared. Whereas in an argumentative essay, you make a recommendation or you speak about a preference, and that then would be done in such a way that you persuade somebody who doesn't believe the same as you. You come to a conclusion in which you convince them of your point of view. So what is an argument? An argument is most of all seeking the truth, which is more than collecting the facts. Because often, especially you who are going to work with people, there are nuances. If you now listened, I don't know whether you could hear the conversation between me and Brian. The one part was she told me I don't need to worry, there's just a lag in my computer. So she gave me technical advice. At the same time, she could hear that I was upset because I'm worried that the workshop isn't happening on your side. And she said, just calm down, it's a Thursday. So, and that is the truth, because the facts here have another side to it. I won't be able to teach if I'm panicking at this side. So do you see that the truth is more than only the facts uh, of the matter. And who is not muted? Okay, everybody's muted now. And so when we say we are looking for the truth, if I say I am looking for the truth, I am looking at the facts, but I also have the responsibility to combine the facts and to see all the facts in their perspective. If we take this short discussion between me and Bronwyn as an example, it was the way that she spoke that persuaded me, I don't need to worry, everything is fine. And that is the characteristic of an argument. You seek the truth by looking at the facts, not only the facts that suit your argument, but also the facts that do not suit your argument. And you can take a note of this. If you only, there's a word for it. If you only use the facts that suit your argument, they speak about cherry picking. And then persuasion, those are the words and phrases that we use to convey our argument. Now, when I speak to you, it's easy to be very calm. Not always. I always panic when I have an idea that you can't hear me. But if I've set up my work properly, I can choose the words to convince you of my advice to how to write a better essay. So an argument seeks the truth, even if it's not exactly what my gut reaction is, and I use techniques to persuade other people to agree with me. So how do I develop an argument? You can see from the diagram that I have here, can you see how they explore the issue from more than one side? It is society's view, it's the environmental view, and the view from the economists. And where they overlap, so for instance, that you have to think of building a new place of safety for abused women. If the environment, this suburb where you are going to build or buy a house, if the environment can cope with it, that is bearable. If you can find the money for that specific problem, it's equitable. If the environment and the economy can both cope with that house, it's viable. But where society, the abused woman, can cope with the suburb in which you put them, and you have enough money, it becomes sustainable. Do you see how many facts and theories and information we need to collect merely to say, I am going to buy 17 Mill Street as a place of safety for abused women. So when we have an argument, we have a claim supported by reasons, explanations, and evidence. The next step is to find more than one opinion. Now, in this case, you can ask the neighbors. A friend of mine took clothes to a house for abused women, and she said they don't give you the address, but will the environment respect these people's privacy? Where am I going to get the money? And do the people in my organization think it's reasonable to pay that much for a house in that suburb? More than one opinion. And then, of course, do the women want to, are they prepared to go into hiding or a place of safety that is maybe very far from where their children go to school? There are all kinds of opinions that we have. And then it is always important to acknowledge your own and other underlying assumptions. My personal point of view about abused women: leave and leave early, and leave the first time. But there are opposing views. If you speak to a minister, they might, that specific people or that specific church congregation may believe that marriage is a holy institution, and you may not advise people to get a divorce and leave an abusive relationship. Now, what's important is that we say, I make this recommendation, I interpreted the facts like this, and then say, it is because I have this point of view. If I speak to the abused woman's minister and he gives different advice, what is his underlying assumption? Now, in the cases that I have now mentioned, it's easy to find the assumptions, but where you have to write reports, for instance, on abortions, it becomes very difficult to separate our own assumptions from what is necessarily the best for the client that you are working from. So look at how do you build an argument? And remember, now you've still not actually written a word of your report or assignment or essay. You make a claim and you have evidence for it, and you can explain your reasons for that. Then you find more than one opinion. And yesterday I had the same kind of workshop for the College of Education. And this one a student asked me, how do I find multiple opinions? Can I simply ask my fellow students? In academic world, you can't do that. Your opinions must come from respected and authoritative voices. and people who are stakeholders, because the neighborhood, they aren't your clients, but it's still the neighbors that will more or less make it possible to have a house of safety in a suburb. So they are stakeholders. It is in their interest to either make it work or to remove the house from the suburb. And it's a very fine line to acknowledge the interests of stakeholders and to admit that even though not directly involved, they also have some kind of power in the whole project that you are running. And then I think that is more or less the most important one, because it's the most difficult one, to know what do I assume about life, and what the people that I ask for advice or their opinion, what is their underlying assumptions. I want to go back to the chats and see if you have added any chats. Oh, I'm looking at the... Okay. Do you have any questions up till now? Or do you see any link to some of the assignments that you are working on? Because I think you have an assignment coming up soon, where you have to present an argument to start some other group work. We are so few people, I am going to unmute you unless you have yes, no, rather, if you want to respond and you do not have a noisy background, that will be fine, because we're only 3 in the conversation. So Naomi and Natasha, you can unmute. I think you can unmute. I didn't mute you. You can unmute yourself if you want to, and then I think it will be easier for you if you just want to say something. So we develop an argument in that way, and then when we have to structure an argument, we have an introduction, and we're going to look at the introduction in kind of detail. And then we have, they say view 1, but that is you start off with an idea. And I'm going to go through that in the argumentative essay, where it is a contentious issue, whether there should be an abortion clinic on a university campus, whether the doctors may advise and help students to get an abortion. You have one view about abortions, then you have an opposing view. So you write you find the opinions and the theories that say, no, students shouldn't have that easy access to abortions. And then you the correct word would be the rebuttal. Then you take those arguments from the opposing view and you say, for this and this reason, I do not agree. And then you come to the conclusion, and we are going to speak about the details of the conclusion later on. But in this case, or in the case of an argumentative essay, you will most probably pass or fail on the quality of your conclusion. And I have a lot of sympathy with that, because when I did my master's, I really had a problem in writing a strong conclusion. When you have an expository essay, that would be there's a problem with conflict at the school. They called in social workers to give advice to the principal. In that case, you again have an introduction. Then you have, say for instance, the view of the psychologist about the conflict on the school ground. Then you have a complementary view in which you may be asked a sociologist, what about the class differences in the school? And the sociologist explains the same problem from a different point of view. You can even speak about a town planner. So you get one view and you get somebody who gives you a wider view on the problem. And then you put the two ideas together. The psychologist looked at why the children eat unhealthy food. They have sugar highs, they're irritable. That's one view. The sociologist said, yes, and you get conflict on the school ground when you have people from different social strata. And there's a lot of envy, and also there's envy and disrespect between the two groups, and that also contributes towards the conflict. And in your fourth, in the fourth stage, you put these together, and from that you make a conclusion in which you put say, why do you think that one of these, and yes, why should we take advice from both of these people? And you make a recommendation from that. I want to go back to the chat. Are there any questions up till now? Adele, will you please unmute yourself and answer my question? If the students have muted themselves, can they unmute themselves? Or if you have muted them, do you need to, thank you, Naomi, can you unmute, do you have to unmute them? Because if I click on show participants, I don't see the option to unmute everyone. I don't know why I don't see that option. Okay, let's go back to the slides. So we spoke about the structure of an argument, which is that we first of all have a view. We have our introduction, so the reader knows exactly what we are speaking about. Then we have one view, one opinion. We have an opposing opinion. We rebut it. We explain why, even though those arguments may be valid, why we disagree, and then we come to a conclusion. Otherwise, we have again an introduction. We have the view of one expert. We have a view from another expert, often from a different field. And we combine those and we work back to a conclusion about those views that we have studied. Now we have phases in constructing an argument, because you don't sit down and have an argument. First of all, we have to find the data, the information, and that will, in your case, come from reading the case study, what is in the case study, and find the relevant data in the case study. Then we organize the data. And this organization is quite important because you need to organize that according to a theme. You can organize it in the most serious to less serious. Or you can say this happened first, then that happened, then that happened. Or you can reverse it. There was a fight in which children actually had knives and spikes at the school. Before that, we had a fight where they wrestled and broke somebody's arm. And before that, we had taunting. But this organization of the data is something that people often leave out. They don't organize their data. So, because if you organize the data and you decide, but this is the thread, this is what is binding my data together, that gives you the information that you need, and that organizes your argument. The next is, how do I interpret the data? Can you see that the moment that you have chosen the theme, you can say either the conflict has escalated, or I predict the conflict will escalate. Or you can be at the stage where you are evaluating the problem to solve the conflict on the school ground. And you had the most, and you take time, and you said, in March, conflict looked like this. In April, it looked like that. In May, it looks like this. And we intervened, and our interventions were this, and therefore. But how do I interpret the data is a very important function. And then you start building your argument. Now, what I have here is a copy of a case study. I want you to see what and please write that in the chats. What are the facts that you have to take into account? Write in the chats. What are the data, or what information is given to you in this case study? A group of immigrants from Mozambique, Swaziland, Lesotho and Namibia approached the Sunnyside police station to lay several complaints of threats and intimidation by some South African residents who abuse them physically and often loot their informal trading shelters. The police registered a complaint and promised to investigate the matter. The officer who was helping the immigrants noticed a sense of despondency among them, with some shedding tears as they narrate their painful experiences of being scared in this country. The officer then referred the group to a psychologist who, upon rendering psychotherapeutic services, realized the need for social work support services and made a referral to a social worker. Upon receiving the referral, a social worker, Mr. Nguni, felt the need to establish a group as a means to support the immigrants and immediately planned for a group. Now, you have to write the proposal to start the group. So what you are going to do is, first of all, you have to decide, is this an argumentative essay or is it an expository essay? What is the approach that you are going to take? Please either unmute yourself. I'll see if I can unmute you. No. Either unmute yourself or write in the chat what will be your approach. Oh, sorry, Natasha is at work, so she can only listen to us. She can't respond. I understand that, Natasha. Naomi, you will have to be the bright one today. How are you going to collect facts from this? And it's important that you help me out on this one, because it's your we need the kind of information that you will use in your profession here.
Okay, Mimi, I don't
Yes,
know if you can. Okay, I'm
yes,
not sure.
I
I'm
can
not
hear you.
in that by that module yet, because I only started. But I'm just gonna give it a try from listening to what
Yes,
you were saying. I think that it is important for the social worker to also go into the organization where that clients come from, also to gather as much information to find out, just to gather facts around how to work on the case, and also not to just because there's two sides to a story also. So it is important for the social worker to find information from both sides in order to start the
Okay.
argument.
Okay, so one can't, and I think what you're here saying is very important, that we cannot assume that
Yes,
the uh, uh, that the immigrants are
yes,
totally innocent. Maybe part of it can be that they need to understand certain practices that the locals have that they should respect.
yes,
Okay. Remember previously we spoke about underlying assumptions. The person who's given you the facts, what do you
yes,
think is his or her underlying assumptions about the uh, we I hope we can go on speaking, and when we go back to the case study. Can you still hear me,
yes.
Naomi? Okay. Now, if you look at the language they used in this case study, what do you think? How does the author of this case study, how does that person feel about the immigrants?
Yes, I'm sure there is a language barrier because it's not always the message won't always come clear across from the immigrants to the South African, you know. So obviously there are sometimes where the person will look down on them and will maybe try to ill treat them because of the way from where they come, and maybe see that as the person as, you know, they're looking down on them, and they don't see their rights also. They don't know, though they don't explain to the person what their rights are as well. So now obviously they're taking advantage of that person's rights also.
Yes, but if you look at this report, I want you to pay attention to the information given by the person who wrote this report. Let's say that that's Mr. Nguni. He's the
Mm,
social worker. Now we
yes.
have to look at his assumptions about life.
Yes.
What do you think? Where does his sympathy lie in this exercise?
I think that he has a concern for the immigrants because they showed emotions, and the fear that they have, and I know that he wants like somebody professional, the social workers, to step in order to stand in as a support system for the immigrants.
Yes. So it was interesting, your first remark. I don't know, I haven't had bad experiences with immigrants. So, but it's obvious that you have had experiences with immigrants.
No, not really. I'm just
Not really.
trying to. No, I haven't because you know, I always I'm an open person, and I make room to understand and respect other people's religions and the backgrounds where they come from. So I haven't faced any of that yet.
Okay, so between the two of us, we believe that we give people a fair chance. And
Yes,
you have demonstrated that by saying if there's conflict in the suburb or in the township,
yes,
you cannot merely listen only to the one group.
Yes.
And let's pretend you are, because I want you to take you through the whole exercise of building an argument.
Okay.
Okay, so we're finding the data. Let's be
Yeah.
at that level at the moment. So if we go to this one, what kind of information do you have about from this case study? What kind of information do you have?
Okay. From the case study that you are speaking about,
Yes,
the
that's currently on the scene, on the screen.
I can't see anything on the screen. I can only see, yeah, I don't see the PowerPoint.
Oh, you should have told me. Do you see it now?
No, I still don't see anything.
Have you seen the previous slides?
No, I just listened to you, so I thought maybe you're just explaining to us the work. So in
Okay,
the beginning,
I'll
you
tell
started the session, I saw the slide, but then afterwards, there was no slide. But you just explained the work to us, so I just made notes.
you you should have written that um, in the meeting chat. So sorry about that. I don't understand that. You know what? For some other reason, even though I am a presenter,
Yes.
oh, maybe it will work now. Do you see the screen now, Naomi?
Okay. Not yet.
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Don't you see it at the moment?
No.
Okay. Then we are going to practice your ability to listen as well. I want you to make notes of the facts as I read it to you slowly again.
Okay.
A group of immigrants from Mozambique, Swaziland, Lesotho, and Namibia approached the Sunnyside police station to lay several complaints of threats and intimidation by some South African residents who abused them physically and often loot their informal trading shelters. The police registered the complaint and promised to further investigate the matter. The officer who was helping the immigrants noticed a sense of despondency among them, with some shedding tears as they narrate their painful experiences of being scared in this country. The officer then referred the group to a psychologist who, upon rendering psychotherapeutic services, realized the need for social work support services and made a referral to a social worker. Upon receiving the referral, a social worker, Mr. Nguni, felt the need to establish a group as a means to support the immigrants and immediately planned for a group. What would you say is the important information that you found there?
The fact that they are being attacked by South Africans and they
Mm-hmm.
don't feel, and they fear their lives. So
Yes.
the important thing is to try to get them into a safer environment or in a safer space where
Yes.
there's no threat or attack from any person from the other side or any other South African. So they need to be placed in a safe environment.
Yes,
Because
in
I
the Cape,
remember
we would have
that
taken them to Strandfontein.
yes, just to keep just to have them in a safe environment where there's no attacks or anything like that. Because I can also remember that we had an incident where I stayed in Valhalla Park, where there
Mm.
were people who had these shops, and then also the foreigners, and because of the other people of the community also had these mobile shops, and they didn't make any money because the foreigners actually charged cheaper on the products, and so the people of the community also attacked these people and tried to get rid of them. And I think that that was also not a proper way of doing it, you know. So I
No.
don't really know what happened with regards to that case, but there were actually foreigners who lost their lives as
Oh,
to
that
the
must have been horrible.
yes. So I don't really
Okay.
know.
Um, this is now a big generalization. Uh, um, no, what I can't prove what I want to say now, so it's not part of the argument. But what we see here is that Mr. Nguni, we have a problem with immigrants being threatened, and that they are often physically abused, and then that their merchandise is stolen.
Yes,
And now Mr. Nguni feel that a support group would help these immigrants. What kind of help would you give these people? Because if you take all of them out to Strandfontein, as is done in South Africa, in the Cape, their children are far away from their schools. They
yeah,
can't. It, it it. I get the idea. It doesn't really work. So,
yes. And
what
there's
kind
no
of
guarantee that they're not gonna have the same problem on that side, because now, like
yeah?
you say, that it's gonna be a challenge to get the children from the one area to the other.
Yes. So, what do you think? What kind of support would these immigrants get? Because we've now decided to merely transport them to another place where the same problem will occur won't help. So, what kind of support would this support group offer to the immigrants?
Well, this is a tricky, like a tough question where, because you need to try and accommodate the foreigners as well, and the support they can give them basically is, I'm not sure how to explain it, but um, by maybe even trying to go into that communities and maybe try and negotiate or have a discussion with them also to try and accommodate these foreigners, or in some way. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Now that but when I had to prepare this, I thought now I have much more respect for a social worker, because um, it's not an easy problem to solve.
Yes, it is.
Because I suppose you've done Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know
No,
that
no, I haven't.
triangle, and we need health and safety at the bottom,
Yes,
and we need food, and then we need food, and then we need safety, and then we need respect. Do you
yes.
know what I'm speaking about?
Yes, and also job creation, because obviously there's no form of income, and for how long will they be able to support that foreigners? And I mean, there's a lot of them. So
Yes.
try to create jobs, or try to maybe equip them with maybe arts and craft skills by generating funds for themselves, things like
Yes,
that.
and
Putting
uh,
like
I
that in
think
place.
yes, but do you see the importance in this one? If we have a problem, that's our view one. It's a pity you can't see the slide,
I
but
can see the screen. I can see it now.
can you see it now?
Yeah,
Wow, I'm
I can.
glad. Okay, so we have a problem, and now we are looking, and you have mentioned quite a few. If it's the shop that's causing the conflict, maybe if I teach these people to do something else, if I can find a job where they do not take money away from the locals,
Yes.
it might help. But do you see the importance now of organizing our data?
Yes.
Because it's when we started we found the data. When we started organizing the data, we could start interpreting it, and now we can start building the argument.
Yes, or they can even maybe they can try to the social worker can maybe try to assist the person with by maybe doing applications for maybe a place in Belleville or wherever where they have these spot where they can sell this stuff at a certain time from the certain time of the day, and then end off, and then they just pack up and leave, you know. So they get these options like that also, where they can maybe in Pero or Belleville, there's a lot of places where they have these small shops. Then you just need to pay a certain fee for your section where you are stationed.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. But do you see how important, can you see now, how
Yeah.
important it is to find credible other opinions in this section? When we move, we've explained the problem. We have one option, and that view is we need to help these people. We can't simply ignore them. And now that we have started I'm not an expert in this field at all. My job is to learn, to teach you how to think about a problem. And do you see how important the complementary view have now become?
Yes.
And now we can start with the synthesis, because we have more than one idea, and you have actually instinctively, because we have gone through the phases, you have instinctively moved into stage 3 and 4.
Okay.
You said okay, as if you can't really believe it.
Yeah, it's just you know, when you work under the supervision of social workers for years, and then sometimes then you just pick up and grasp some things, and then you make use of that information, like in times like this where you just try to, you know, give your input. So that is what I'm trying to do. I'm actually just trying to learn more and, you know, try to prepare myself, so when I get to that modules, and then I will know and understand what it is that I need to do. So yeah,
Yes,
that is
and that's
what
one
I,
of the reasons why you have to have that 120 hours of community work. Why is it so important?
yes,
Because you have been in the field. You said
yes,
things that I honestly didn't even know about, and I don't think we live far apart.
yes. Yeah, and I think that the social worker is not always alone. And like you explained in the beginning, that they can also seek advice from their colleagues, and you know, and
Mm.
then maybe ask them how they think they should handle the situation, if there's any support from their side, because there's always something from the other side where people will say, okay, but there is an opportunity on the side for that person just to assist them. So it's not like you are alone. There's always support from your colleagues from different areas as well.
Well, if I wanted to be funny, I could have told you, it sounds to me as if you can put the social into social work. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do.
But I think it is Natasha that's listening in, and I think she's so sorry that she can't actually take part in the
Yes,
discussion because you've.
it would be nice to just have another voice or of somebody just to hear the opinion and maybe just have a nice
Yes.
discussion on this, on the case study.
Yes, and that is what a proper study group is, that everybody contributes an idea, and it's far more than simply exchanging answers. It is where we learn from one another. And this class is now becoming very interesting to me because I'm learning such a lot from you. I hope you learn half as much from me.
Yes, I have. I've learned. Thank you, Mimi. It's really helpful, the information that you're giving us. And yeah.
I'm very glad about that. I need some advice from the two of you, and you must please put Natasha. Naomi is not here with us. It's Natasha that I'm speaking to.
You're speaking to Naomi. Natasha is
Okay.
at work.
Natasha
Yes.
is the quiet one. If we move the classes to later in the day, if more people will be able to attend the classes, because now that lockdown has more or less finished and people start going
Yes.
back to their work, we'll need to adjust the time.
I'm open
So,
for later time as well, Mimi. I'm okay with that. If we can
okay,
accommodate the students as well who also want to sit in the session, then I'm fine with it.
okay, I'll speak about that. If we now look at the next slide, you can still see what it is.
Yes, I can.
Okay, now on this slide, what do I put into my introduction? Because my introduction must be of such a quality that the person feels like reading the rest of it.
Okay,
So,
so
yeah,
I think the introduction should be more like giving an introduction about what is taking place, about the foreigners, where they come from, a little bit of a short history of them, and what the challenge is that they are facing. And then
yes.
afterwards, then you maybe put down what the interaction with them and all of that. I'm not sure if I'm on the right track.
Um, that will very much depend because remember you are being taught to write reports. But
Yes.
in your introduction, if not all assignments require headings, but
Yes.
if your assignment require headings, those headings are, are actually the main part of your argument. So,
Yes.
say for instance, you are going to compare this group, the problems of this group, to another group and make that your reason. Previously, you've run a similar group in Belleville. Then you, in your introduction, you have to tell the reader, I am going to compare the problems of this group in Sunnyside to a group I had facilitated in Belleville. And
Okay.
then the reader, the examiner, knows what technique you are going to use, and that will give him an idea, are you on the right track or not?
Okay.
Okay, say for
Yes.
instance that you are going to explore the problems, because for instance a problem of looting will have a different solution than the problem of physical abuse.
Okay. Yes.
So the verb that you choose in your introduction already tells the examiner, are you on the right track? For one, I'd be very skeptical if a problem in Belleville is a solution from Belleville can be just adapted to a problem in Sunnyside. Belleville has a different kind of structure to
Yes.
Sunnyside. Do you know
Yes.
where Sunnyside is?
I'm not 100% sure. Is it in the southern suburbs? I'm not
No,
sure.
it's in the middle of Pretoria.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh, so
it
Pretoria
is
that you're talking about.
mostly a place, I associated the place with flats. So the very setup is a bit different
Yes. Okay,
from
so
Belleville.
maybe there is places close to Sunnyside where that's the same like Belleville, where they have these open spaces where people can, like in Cape Town also, where they have like the plazas, and then they just have a lot of people selling stuff, goods and stuff like that. So maybe on that side there's also places like that.
Like that. But
Yes.
what will work in, you said that you live in Valhalla.
No, I live in Faro now, but I used to
Do
stay
you
in
live in
in the.
Paro? Now, a solution that will work in Paro might not work in the middle of, in the CBD in town.
Yes, I
So,
understand that.
so you see, I would be very careful to use the verb compare, but that verb that you choose is actually one of the most important words
Mm-hmm.
when we do an assignment. Because
Yes,
if you choose that verb carefully, you do the right thing right through the essay.
yes, I understand.
Yes, so in your introduction, you will at least have to say, I am the aim of this report is to, and then you choose your verb, and then you have to tell the examiner what you want to do. And that is that you want to start a support group for the immigrants.
Yes,
And then if you have headings, you have to introduce them in a logical fashion.
okay.
Now, when we have a paragraph, this is a very basic structure for a paragraph. There are other structures, but I like this one because one can remember Peel.
Yes,
You have a point, that's the main idea, and you put that as your first sentence. That's the topic sentence. Then you have an example. We can, I'm scared we're running out of time. No, we still have 10 minutes. But so you can make a point. The immigrants in Sunnyside are scared, and then you give an example. They are attacked but because they are attacked by the locals, and often these shops are broken in and things stolen.
Yes.
Then you explain the locals, this happens because, and then your reasons about the communication and cultural practices upset the locals and they turn to violence. That's then your explanation. Then you come to your link, and the link is often a difficult sentence to write because this link must now remind the reader of the point that you wanted to make. And remember, the point was the locals, the foreigners, feel that they are in danger. Then right at the end, you say, therefore, it's very important to find a solution for the conflict between the immigrants and the locals.
Yes.
Do you see? And if you work according to this structure, as you study, you will develop a more sophisticated way of writing. But if
Yes.
you start off with this structure, at least you cover all your bases in the paragraph, and also um, it teaches you to answer the question, because
Yes.
if you get those paragraph questions in the exam or in an assignment, it is a very good structure to keep in mind.
Okay.
So we make a point, then we give a practical example of the point I've made, then I explain either the consequences or the source of the problem, and then I have a link.
Yes.
And really, I have seen postgraduate students apply this and they write long paragraphs, but all of a sudden your paragraph is coherent. And can you
Yes.
see that this becomes a logical extension of the organization of the information? Because now
Yes.
you know, in your next paragraph, I have organized my information. Now my next sentence is relevant because I know which point to start.
Yes.
And you can use words like, say your point, you said um, the immigrants are scared because they are being threatened and their shops are looted. Then
Yes.
with your next paragraph, you can say furthermore, and immediately the reader, the examiner, no, now you are giving me more information about the theme you have.
Yes.
If you start your sentence with afterwards, remember I said that you choose to organize your information in a certain theme.
Yes.
That if you have chosen the theme of sequence, time, then you will use a word like afterwards or before.
Okay.
And you take the examiner with you through your argument.
Okay, so there's a difference between the two.
Yes. And because it's very important to have a theme according to which you organize your information.
So with the assignment, they will actually explain, request which one you should choose, or can you choose your own method?
From what I've seen, because I have access to a few of your modules. From what I've seen is you have to recognize the theme yourself.
Okay.
But I'm not sure, I don't have access to all of it. But that's why I give you my email address every time, that you can write to me and say, this is the information, and then we can have a discussion like we have now and decide you are going to tackle it according to this and that theme or structure.
Okay. So that will also help you.
Yeah, that will definitely also help you. In your conclusion, you have to summarize your argument, and it's important to have a word which warns your examiner or reader that you are now moving on to the conclusion. And you can say, like, finally, therefore, what was the other one I was thinking about? In conclusion, you can also have as a beginning, but that tells your, remember you introduced the argument. Now it is like listening to a joke. The guy
Yes.
starts off with a remark, and then he takes a deep breath, and now I'm going to get the punchline. It's the same with an argument like this, where
Yes.
you give him a word that tells him this is now your conclusion, and you summarize your argument. In this case, I would more or less end it like this. Therefore, as the conflict between the immigrants and the local population is actually escalating,
Yes.
I recommend that we start a support group. What is the implication of the support group? To integrate the immigrants into an economy where the locals won't feel threatened.
Yes.
Do you see and then if you have had a reader uh, in real life, you are going to compete with many other people to find the money for your projects.
Yes.
That if you have worked in social work. So if you have this one paragraph to convince the person of your idea, your intelligence, your insistence on getting the help that you need. So whereas the introduction is your one and only opportunity to get him interested in the proposal, your summary must convince him that your proposal is going to work. Natasha, I am sorry you couldn't take part in our interesting conversation, but I understand. And Naomi, I've really learned a lot from your contribution to the class.
Thank you, Mimi. It was quite interesting, and like I say, I was a bit nervous because I didn't know if I was gonna give the proper feedback or interact, the way I should. But I've learned a lot as well, and I
Yes,
really think,
but my idea is that by giving you words and structures, that you will develop your own thought processes
yes,
and be able, because all people have lots of knowledge,
yes,
and I want, my idea is that by helping people to verbalize their contribution, it's easier for people to make a contribution.
yes,
Um, I think, yeah. Thank you very much. I'll appreciate. I've